today I wanted to do something a little more sweet, sugary. So I'm making biscuits, specifically vanilla biscuits from an old cookbook. I think this one was from the 80s or the 70s. It still has the old imperial measurements, which is interesting, and the conversions between. I do miss that. So what I'm doing here is pouring some hot water and getting a bowl to cream the ingredients. The ingredients are 125 grams of butter, softened, which is what I'm doing now. 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, 1 egg, 2 cups, and here's some advertisement of Champion Standard Plain Flour. I don't think that brand exists anymore. And 1 teaspoon of Edmond's baking powder. I use Pam's for all of it, so I feel I've cheated. It wants me to cream butter, sugar, and vanilla together, which is what I'm going to do until it's light and fluffy. Add an egg, the egg, beat it well, then sift flour, baking sugar together, and mix into a creamy kind of sloth. And then wants me to roll heaped teaspoons of mixture into bowls and place them on an oven tray. Flatten slightly with a floured fork. Base at 190 degrees for 12 minutes or until pale golden. Now, if you don't know, Edmond's cookbooks are quite, especially when they switch to metric, quite bad at measurements. So I actually put it at 180 because if you put it at 190 it cooks too quickly on the outside and the inside becomes this goop. So that's Edmond's magical thing. Especially with a lot of these older cookbooks, you kind of have to check everything. And because this recipe is so simple and easy, I've done it many times. The shot here. This one I like, because of the way the afternoon sun hit all the metal. It created this kind of dreamy reflection where everything's double stilted. I don't know how. I think the light refracting is causing shapes to appear on like a halo effect. It's beautiful. And I suppose it's nice having a window right by where you make biscuits and cook dinner. So yeah, that was an unintended but ultimately beautiful effect. It fades in and out as the clouds roll over it, but that's New Zealand weather for you, changing constantly. 5 minutes it's sunny, 5 minutes later it's raining, the next 5 minutes it's cloudy, and the next 5 minutes it's sunny again. So here I'm creaming it and adding sugar as well as the vanilla a bit later on. Now throughout it I'm going to read other recipes, just because I like old cookbooks, especially this one. It's worn and raggedy and stained with almost every ingredient imaginable, because it's a family heirloom. Not an expensive one, but the ones you keep, the ones that matter. So right under it is Belgian biscuits, 125 grams of butter, shock, softened, 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1 egg, 2 cups of Champion Standard Flour, 1 teaspoon of Edmond's baking powder, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of mixed spice, and 1 teaspoon of cocoa. While I'm here, my auntie dropped by and decided to be very loud on the audio file, so sadly I've had to turn it down. Almost out of not baking powder, vanilla essence. I had just enough for this, which I suppose is luck. And if you're naughty and look in the top right hand corner, you'll see the dishes that I haven't done that I really should and will do after. Notice halfway through the video all the things I notice as I'm baking and I clean up, because I'm quite lazy. I'm young and a man, so these things elude me. I suppose that's sexist of me, but oh well. Anyway, the Belgian biscuits have icing on them. They're actually really nice. I like them. I should probably make them at some point. I don't think I'll video that because it's surprisingly difficult to bake and video at the same time. Anyway, the icing is 3/4 of a cup of icing sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of raspberry or vanilla essence, how kind of them, few drops of red food colouring, water. You fill it with half a cup of raspberry jam, approximately. They always say approximately. I find it's wise to fill it with a little bit less if you're going to make smaller ones, because they tend to not go too well if you overfill it, in that they burst in the oven. Want you to cream butter and sugar until light and fluffy. Add egg and beat well. Sift flour and baking powder, cinnamon, ginger, mixed spice, and cocoa together. Mix into creamed mixture to make a firm dough. On a lightly floured board, roll dough out to 3mm thickness. Of course, we all have our rulers when we're baking, just checking everything is exactly 3mm. Cut rounds using 6.5cm cutter. Bake at 180 degrees centigrade for 15 minutes or until golden. Again, don't cook them that low, surprisingly. I actually try to get it to 200 when I cook Belgian biscuits because it gives it a nice crisp edge and you bite it, and then there's the raspberry center, which is very nice. When cold, ice half the biscuit, spread an uniced biscuit with raspberry jam and place biscuits on top. It says it makes 18. It makes 8 or 9. But then again, I'm never good with measurements and I always tend to under or overdo it, so I'm not one to judge. The icing is just simple. You mix icing sugar with, the flavour and the colouring and a bit of water to it, and you're done. Always like to put a little bit in the fridge first so it cools down. It's more placeable, only for a short while, but hot icing sugar is just too messy. Here I'm doing the flour. Not sifting. I don't actually have a sieve. It's quite improper of me. I need to get one, but I like doing it with my hands. Although on this one I'm quite lazy. I don't even sift the flour. It's a miracle it turned out that nicely. Most things are miracles. Anyway. Now, what else can I make? Oh, I never noticed that before. Huh. Underneath the basic biscuits, it has lists of things you can add to make the basic biscuits different biscuits. To make chocolate biscuits, you add 2 tablespoons of cocoa. When you're adding in the flour, of course, sifting. Orange biscuits, you take out the vanilla essence and add 1 tablespoon of orange rind. I always like the rinds on citrus fruits. They kind of give off this lasting scent that feels like you're sitting in the sun, but no, it's not burning you. That's a terrible description, but this is the tang. And then, no, just don't know if you tasted it, it would be terrible. Lemon biscuits. It's just adding 2 teaspoons of grated lemon rind to creamed mixture. Ooh. Spice biscuits. That's just mixed spice. I don't know what mixed spice is. I think they just mean cinnamon and nutmeg. Probably. And sultana biscuits. I have made these ones. They're very nice. they're quite tasty. Now, yeah, at this point, I'm very grateful I cut the audio because right at this moment, my auntie was talking about politics and the beta was going off at full bore. I was actually quite cautious at this moment because I've never done it up on the windowsill on the kitchenette before because I was scared that it would spray everywhere, but it's quite lucky I only did a small batch because it didn't spread everywhere. That beat is almost as old as this book. I just realised that. That's so weird. The afternoon sun was shining, and it was so beautiful. Even with my auntie's wonderful moments. I'm adding the baking powder here. Sadly, it's not Champion or Edmund's baking powder. It's the cheapest stuff. Because I forgot to mix it in with the flour because I'm just terribly bright. It turns out it's quite difficult to focus on baking when you're trying to make a video out of it. But I think I did well. Even though most of the shots are out of focus, but that just adds to the effect, doesn't it? I hope it does. Oh, it's a good thing I don't get paid for this. Anyway, as I'm mixing it, I begin to a little bit panic because if the biscuits turn out terribly, then I'll have the embarrassing thing of, but the recipe didn't turn out right because I don't know what I'm doing, I'm sorry. Even though I've made this one a few hundred times now, ever since I was young, very young, because it's something simple you can whip up, and they tend to teach it in primary school as well, as you do. Anyway, let's see what other recipes we have. Let's try a cake recipe, hey? A honey cake. 1 cup of honey, obviously, 1 cup of water, 1.5 cups of chopped dates, 50 grams of butter, 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, 2 cups of Champion standard plain flour, 4 teaspoons of Edmund's baking powder, icing sugar, whipped cream, caramel sauce. It actually has a page 189 on how to make that, so we'll jump to that after this. Put honey, water, dates, butter in a saucepan. Stir consistently over a medium heat until butter has melted. Remove from heat and allow it to cool. Stir in vanilla, sift flour and baking powder into a saucepan. Stir to combine. Pour mixture into a greased and lined 20cm round cake tin. Bake 180 degrees for 45 minutes or until cake springs back when lightly touched. Leave in tin for 10 minutes before turning out onto a wire rack. I miss wire racks. I don't think I have one. Maybe I should go down to the market and get one. There's normally tons of people there who just have them. All their old cooking stuff lying about because they can no longer be asked to bake or they've got better things. I think a wire rack from the 80s would suit my old mixer and my old book. Anyway. When cold, dust with icing sugar or serve as a dessert with cream and caramel sauce. Now let's find out how to make that caramel sauce, shall we? 189. Ooh, I'm rounding the balls. That's actually my favourite part to do. You dip your hand in flour, and so you don't get it stuck to you. And you get to craft like adult Play-Doh, because they don't let adults play with Play-Doh anymore. It's a forbidden thing. Now, to make a caramel sauce, you need 125 grams of butter, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of Edmonds Fielders corn flour, of course, 1 cup of water, 1 tablespoon of golden syrup, no bran sadly, and 1/2 cup of cream, obviously Anchor. Melt butter and sugar in saucepan, stirring consistently until sugar dissolves. Boil for 3 minutes, stirring occasionally. Remove from heat in a bowl, combine corn flour, water, and golden syrup until smooth. Add to the saucepan. Bring mixture back to the boil, stirring constantly. Boil for 2 minutes, remove from heat. Add cream, and it makes about 2 cups. I shall try that at some point. We're almost done here. I think it made 12 biscuits. How many originally was it allowed to make? It says it's going to make 35. Such lies. Maybe if I'd used Champion flour and Edmonds teaspoon baking powder, it would be much better. Ooh, there's a recipe for custard. I used to love custard. I remember one time I went out, I was 5, looking for it, and the moon was following me, and at that time I didn't understand how it worked, and I was scared the moon knew where I lived. Young people think of such weird things. Here's me packing up all proper now, the good boy that I am. I think in a moment or two, I eat the stuff off the spoon. You can't see it, but I am. And then as I pick up the utensils and things, yeah, there we go. It tasted sweet. I think the spoon was before the baking powder was added, so it has that nice creamy taste without any of the bitterness. But the one from there, it's quite bitter. I just lick it and then decide against it. It doesn't taste as nice. I'll wait for the cookies. They only take about 15 minutes. Giving it a nice clean up, and it is nice when you've cleaned everything up and it looks pretty. Something comforting about it. You know, you see how everything is done, and your biscuits waiting. Oh, yeah, there we go. 180 degrees for baking. Getting ready. Must be careful now. This is what you do it with a fork. Now, I didn't add flour to the fork, which was a terrible decision, so a lot of them stuck. But I cut that part out because it didn't seem very smooth. And we're going for a relaxing experience here. Just me. Put it in the oven. And we're done.